right. Are we live? I said, are we live? Welcome to the Minister Brother Derrick Show. And I am Minister Brother Derrick. Today, we're going to study Moses. But we're going to start at the end of the Joseph story so that we can understand the dilemma of the Israelites and how Moses was needed to free them. So, let's give everybody a chance to get into the room. As usual, we'll play some music. Alrighty, everyone. Let's get to it. So let's block that. All right. Before we can get to Moses, we got to start with Joseph. Now, y'all know that Joseph was the son of Jacob, who was the son of Abraham. Y'all know that Joseph was sold to Egypt by his brothers. But Joseph rose to prominence in Egypt. He made them a lot of money. When his brothers came to buy grain because there was a shortage, but Joseph knew that, and he had the Egyptians store a lot of it, and people were coming from all around to buy from them. He made the Egyptians very wealthy. So he went there as a slave, but wound up being high up in the government of Egypt because he made the money. His brothers came to buy grain because Egypt was the only place that had it. The same brothers that sold him into slavery. The money they gave him, they put it back in the sack so that when the brothers got home, they were afraid. So they brought the money back. and they thought that they were going to get in trouble. And Joseph came and revealed himself to him, told him to go home and get the rest of the family. So Joseph's family moved to Egypt. And they doing good and everything fine because the Egyptians loved Joseph. But now, Joseph dies. And if y'all remember the story of Noah, when Noah was alive, everything was fine on the earth. When Noah died, his sons took over and got out of control. Well, as you can see, this is a similar story. Human beings' behavior does not change. Because you can have somebody great. We just celebrated the death of Martin Luther King. He was great. But look at the leaders that came from behind him. Look at Jesse Jackson. Look at Al Sharpton. Look at the people that have come behind him. Look at Black Lives Matter. Seems like when the leader dies, the people go all willy-nilly. So, let's see what happened. We're starting with the death of Joseph. I just told you about him. Now we're starting with the death. Joseph stayed in Egypt along with all his father's family. He lived 110 years and saw the third generation of Ephraim's children. Also the children of Machir, son of Manasseh, were placed at birth on Joseph's knees. Then Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die, but God will surely come to your aid and take you up out of this land to the land he promised on oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And Joseph made the Israelites swear an oath and said, God will surely come to your aid, and then you must carry my bones up from this place. So Joseph said, take my bones up out of here. I don't want to die in Egypt. So Joseph died at the age of 110, and after they embalmed him, he was placed in a coffin in Egypt. Okay? Now, we come years later. These are the sons of Israel who went to Egypt with Jacob, each with his own family: Reuben, Simon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher. The descendants of Jacob numbered 70 in all. Joseph was already in Egypt. So y'all also see these are the tribes of Israel. Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly and increased in numbers and became so numerous the land was filled with them. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing. Remember what I said? A new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. Look, he said to his people, the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. And they built Pithom and Ramses as store cities for Pharaoh. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor and brick and mortar and with all kind of work in the fields. And all that harsh labor, the Egyptians worked them ruthlessly. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you are helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on a delivery stool, if you see that the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive." So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: "Every Hebrew boy that is born to you, you must throw in the Nile, but let every girl live." Now, I know some of you are thinking about the common sense of what Pharaoh is doing. It doesn't make any sense. But see, men, throughout history, men are favored more than women. I know that women don't like to hear it, but men are favored more. But women are born more than men. And that's not by accident. It is to make sure the race stay alive. Because, see, a man back then could have more than one wife as long as he took care of them and did not cheat on them. A man can have several wives, but a woman could only have one husband. So you would have more women than men. And this is where the logic of the Pharaoh doesn't make any sense. But this is how you know the devil's in his head, because he's not making any sense. If you start killing off the boys, that means that the men who are alive will take on more wives, and those wives will have more children. So how are you slowing down the production of the Hebrew race when you are killing the boys? But that just means that the men get more wives, which means they are young and they are fertile and they are just popping out babies. So you making a shortage of men, which means that even though it's less men, they have more of a selection. The women are desperate to be married. They don't care if they're the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th wife. They want to be married. And they want to have children for their husband. That was a woman's job. So you do not slow down a race. You actually keep it level, because you're making the women desperate to get married. Whereas a boy's father had to produce a dowry, you making it to the point that they can get women for practically nothing. Because there's so many of them, how can you charge a price for a woman when there's so many of them? Y'all understand what I'm saying? When you have a lot of something, it has less value than when you have a little bit of something. That's why you hear limited edition this, limited edition that. They only make so many of them to make them valuable, because everybody can't get them. The women couldn't get a husband, so why would the men who were allowed to live, why would they pay top dollar for women when they were a dime a dozen? So men was getting 2, 3 women for the same price that they were getting for one. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So basically, it didn't slow down the production at all. The women still were popping out babies at a fast rate. So the Egyptians thought they were doing something, but they wasn't. They were actually treading water. Now, a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him, coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were working along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" She said, "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Then Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." One day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people. Looking this way and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. The next day he went out and saw two Hebrews fighting. He asked the one in the wrong, "Why are you hitting your fellow Hebrew?" The man said, "Who made you ruler and judge over us? Are you thinking of killing me as you killed the Egyptian?" Then Moses was afraid and thought, what I did must have become known. When Pharaoh heard it, he tried to kill Moses, but Moses fled from Pharaoh and went to live in Midian. Now, let's stop for a second. Now, they went and stopped. So, Moses' mother hid him from the Egyptians for 3 months. Then finally, she couldn't hide him anymore, so she put him in a basket and put him on the river. It just so happened, and this is God at work, that the Pharaoh's daughter, the princess, she went down to the river and she had her maid get the basket out. She saw it was a baby. She felt sorry for him, and the Lord made her want him. Now, stop, David. No. Move. No, don't scratch my bed. Then I tell you, no. Sorry, y'all. I understand why that cat want to scratch my bed for when she got a scratching post. So, like I was saying, so the princess hired a woman to nurse the baby. And then when he became old enough, she took him into the castle or the compound, whatever the pharaohs called, where their kings lived at. And she brought him up as her son. So Moses became a prince. And you have to realize that if the princess didn't have a brother, that Moses would have been king. And I ask you this, I'm setting this up for a reason. If we know that the Egyptians were not white, how can Moses be white? Somebody talk to me. If we know that the Egyptians are not white, we know this. Why is it that in the movies, Moses is depicted as white? Explain to me how the Pharaoh's daughter could bring home a white baby into dark people palace and nobody say nothing. How is it that he's brought up as a prince and nobody say nothing? Hey, how come he got pure white skin? Why he got blue eyes? Nobody says nothing. It'd be the same way as if you was on a slave plantation and the master's daughter tried to bring a black slave into the household and raise him as an heir to the plantation. I don't think nobody would buy it. Nobody would allow it to happen. So we know that the Hebrew and the Egyptians must be very similar in the way they look. We understand they are very similar in the way they look. The only difference must be the culture, what they believe in, how they dress, their hairstyle, their choice of clothing and ornaments on their clothing. That must be the difference between the Egyptian and the Hebrews. And you can talk to me all day, but I say it again, there's no way you're going to bring in a black baby and tell a master that's his grandson. And he going to let the master be in line. Y'all realize that if Pharaoh did not have a son and he died, Moses would have been the king. And so you would have had a white king of Egypt and nobody would have said nothing. It don't work. Okay, let's get back. Now, Moses fled because Pharaoh tried to kill him when he heard about what he did by him killing the Egyptian soldier. So Moses fled and went to live in Midian, where he sat by a well. Now a priest of Midian had 7 daughters, and they came to draw water and fill the troughs to their water the father's flock. Some shepherds came along and drove them away, but Moses got up, came to their rescue, and watered their flock. Now, what you got to understand here is, if you watch Soccer Zulu, you see this same picture play out. There were things that the women did, and there were things that the men did. But this priest didn't have any boys, and he was old. So his daughters had to go get water from the well. Now, the men didn't respect women. So they saw them in their way, and they were like, why are you doing what a man supposed to be doing? Men supposed to be getting water for the flocks, not women. And so they know that if women are doing it, then there are no men, and that's why they were bullying the women. Back in them days, women stayed home. If the women were out doing that, that told everybody there is no man. There is no man, then who's going to stop them from doing what they want to do to the women? Moses came to their defense. And the priest was very smart. He didn't have a man. He was getting old, and there was no man. So, of course, he brought Moses in. Let Moses marry one of his daughters. And then when the old man died, Moses was the only man. So Moses took everything over. Y'all understand? So Moses rescued the women. He drove the men away, and he watered the flock. When the girls returned to Reu, their father, the priest, he asked them, why have you returned so early today? They answered, an Egyptian rescued us from the shepherds. He even drew water for us and watered the flock. And where is he? Reu asked his daughter. Why did you leave him? Invite him to have something to eat. Moses agreed to stay with the man who gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses in marriage. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, I have become a foreigner in a foreign land. During that long period, the king of Egypt died. The Israelites groaned in their slavery and cried out, and their cry for help because of their slavery went up to God. God heard them groaning, and he remembered his covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. So God looked on the Israelites and was concerned about them. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian, and he led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that, though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up. So Moses thought, I will go over there and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up. When the Lord saw that he had gone over to look, God called to him from within the bush, Moses, Moses. And Moses said, Here I am. Do not come any closer, God said. Take up your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy ground. Then he said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. At this, Moses hid his face because he was afraid to look at God. The Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. I have heard them crying out because of their slave drivers, and I am concerned about their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the hand of the Egyptians and to bring them up out of the land, into a good and spacious land, a land flowing with milk and honey, the home of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivitites, and the Jebusites. And now the cry of the Israelites has reached me, and I have seen the way the Egyptians are oppressing them. So now go. I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. But Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? And God said, I will be with you, and this will be the sign to you that it is I who have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. Moses said to God, Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, The gods of your fathers have sent me to you, and they ask me, What is your name? What shall I tell them? God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. Now, I want to stop right there for a second. It's different translations of this, but God told Moses his name is I am who I am. I am whatever is needed. I am whatever is needed to be. Do y'all understand that? So God didn't give a name. He gave an action. He didn't give a noun. He gave an adjective. He said, I am whatever needs to be. So I am whatever's needed. Whatever's necessary. So he didn't limit himself even in his name. I am who I am. Whatever you need something to be, I am. Whatever you need something done, I am. So God also said to Moses, Say to the Israelites, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, the name you shall call me from generation to generation. Go assemble the elders of Israel and say to them, The Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, appeared to me and said, I have watched over you and seen what has been done to you in Egypt. I have promised to bring you up out of misery in Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, a land flowing with milk and honey. The elders of Israel will listen to you. Then you and the elders are to go to the king of Egypt and say to him, the Lord, the God of Hebrews, has met with us. Let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hail compels him. So I will stretch out my hand and strike the Egyptians with all the wonders I will perform among them. After that, he will let you go. And I will make the Egyptians favorably disposed toward this people, so that when you leave, you will not go empty-handed. Every woman is to ask her neighbor and any woman living in her house for articles of silver and gold and for clothing, in which you will put on your sons and daughters, and so you will plunder the Egyptians. Moses answered, what if they do not believe me or listen to me and say, the Lord did not appear to you? Then the Lord said, what is that in your hand? A staff, he replied. The Lord said, throw it on the ground. Moses threw it on the ground, and it became a snake, and he ran from it. Then the Lord said to him, reach out your hand and take it by the tail. So Moses reached out and took hold of the snake, and it turned back into a staff in his hand. This, said the Lord, is so that they may believe that the Lord, the God of their fathers, the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has appeared to you. Then the Lord said, put your hand inside your cloak. So Moses put his hand into his cloak, and when he took it out, the skin was leprous. It had become white as snow. Now put it back in your cloak, he said. So Moses put his hand back into his cloak, and when he took it out, it was restored like the rest of his flesh. Then the Lord said, if they do not believe you or pay attention to the first sign, they may believe the second. If they do not believe these 2 signs or listen to you, take some water from the Nile and pour it on the dry ground. The water you take from the river will become blood on the ground. Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, I have never been eloquent, neither in the past, nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. The Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, and I will help you speak, and I will teach you what to say. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord. Please send someone else. Then the Lord's anger burned against Moses, and he said, what about your brother Aaron the Levite? I know he can speak well. He is already on his way to meet you, and he'll be glad to see you. You shall speak to him and put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak, and I will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if he were your mouth, and as if you were God to him. But take this staff in your hand, so you can perform the signs with it. Then Moses went back to Jethro, his father-in-law, and said to him, let me return to my own people in Egypt to see if any of them are still alive. Jethro said, go, and I wish you well. Now the Lord has said to Moses and Midian, go back to Egypt, for all those who wanted to kill you are dead. So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and started back to Egypt. And he took the staff of God in his hand. The Lord said to Moses, when you return to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders I have given you, the power to do. But I will harden his heart so he will not let the people go. Then say to Pharaoh, this is what the Lord says, Israel is my firstborn son, and I told you, let my son go so he may worship me, but you refuse to let him go, so I will kill your firstborn son. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him, but Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me, she said. So the Lord let him alone. At that time, she said, bridegroom of the blood, referring to circumcision. The Lord said to Aaron, go into the wilderness to meet Moses. So he met Moses at the mountain of God and kissed him. Then Moses told Aaron everything the Lord had sent him to say, and about all the signs he had commanded him to perform. Moses and Aaron brought together all the elders of the Israelites, and Aaron told them everything the Lord had said to Moses. He also performed the signs before the people, and they believed. And when they heard the Lord was concerned about them and had seen their misery, they bowed down and worshiped. Let me check my chat. Now, one comment? Okay. Alrighty, we're going to stop right here at chapter 5, and I'll come back tomorrow and we'll do a part 2. But this was part 1, and we're going to start next time at chapter 5. We're going to be doing a series of different parts of the Bible, and I hope y'all enjoy it. Please leave a comment, please leave a like, and please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Thank you, y'all, and y'all have a blessed one.